Here we go. So everything now is super serious, like always with our group. So welcome to the YouTube world, and the YouTube world, welcome to SILKROAD 4.0. They were just making jokes because, as you know, there's always a little bit of chit-chat and gossiping before the event starts. And I just activated now the link to the YouTube servers. Just let me double check if it's now working, that we have a connection to our server. Yes, it is indeed. So just to let you know, I have 6 screens like always, and I'm quite overwhelmed with the visual information here. So, okay, fun aside, very serious now. So welcome everyone to this SILKROAD 4.0 event. I would like to show a couple of slides. You should see now. I'm just looking if this works out. Yes, it should. So welcome to SILKROAD 4.0. And like always, I would like to give you a short introduction on SILKROAD 4.0 and how it has started. So the question nowadays is not so much what can technology do, but the point is that nowadays, it's more a question of what should technology do. If you are in with a group of engineers, mostly for, let's say, 95% of the applications, there is a way to make or find a technological solution to any kind of problem. But it's more the question, is technology viable, and does it make any sense to create another useless invention that nobody needs? And this was actually the starting point of SILKROAD 4.0. So please let me introduce myself. My name is Philipp Reinisch, and I started the SILKROAD 4.0 initiative back in 2016. So as you can see here on this image, it was just a couple of days essentially before I left for a trip heading towards China. But the underlying question was, back in 2016, what happens if you take modern technology and go to its extremes? So you can see here, it's we were installing a couple of Internet of Things devices into my old sidecar. And then I drove around the Baltic Sea for 2 months across Europe. But then in 2017, the question came up, so what happens if you really leave your comfort zone? And what happens if you take not only an old sidecar, but a really cutting edge technology motorcycle and equip it with another high-tech components? And this is actually where the whole initiative of SILKROAD 4.0 started, because we're combining Industry 4.0 components traveling Silk Road back in 2018. And I drove all the way from Austria to China and then back, exploring how these technologies are actually working out. Not only that, some of you might know me a bit by now. I really enjoy talking to people, and it's super interesting to learn about these amazing personalities that you're meeting along the road. And because of the traveling, you have a lot of time to digest the information that you hear and that you learn from other people. And this is actually how the mission of SILKROAD 4.0 was created. It's connecting people, technology, and nations. And it's not only me who is traveling around, but in the meantime, the people who are interested and supporting the SILKROAD 4.0 initiative has tremendously grown. Also, the companies that I was honored to have contact with during the process of the SILKROAD 4.0, it was also quite a big learning journey and connectivity journey. Coming to the topic of learning journeys. So what do we do with SILKROAD 4.0? For those who are new, SILKROAD 4.0 is a nomadic incubator network, in a sense that we're moving from one destination to the next. As you might know, I think everybody knows by now, there is a tiny little thing that inhibits traveling a bit. So because of the Corona crisis, we're not able to really travel. but at least we try to virtually move around the world. The way we do it, we organize monthly gatherings or meetings where we meet experts and really knowledge sources along the route. And the route that you can see here is the series of events and meetings that we are organizing. Every destination has a different subject and focus topic. And as you can see here, today, 6th of May, is finance and banking. The next one will be in Vienna. It will be sustainability and environment, but you don't see here an event for June. And that brings me to the next topic, because on June 3rd to June 6th, it will be something unique for SILKROAD 4.0 in the current version, because we really try and want to try what happens if we organize something like a mini road trip. So for our members, we are organizing a trip to the Austrian pole of inaccessibility. For those who do not know what the pole of inaccessibility is, it's the point on Earth that is most distant to the borders of something. So for example, the goal of my trip in 2018 was actually to reach the Eurasian pole of inaccessibility. And that was in the western part of China, in the Xinjiang province, very close, as you can see here, to Kyrgyzstan, slightly south of Russia, where this pole was located. But there is also an Austrian pole of inaccessibility, and this is exactly where we want to travel to on June 3rd to June 6th. So on the bottom left side, you'll see a barcode. So if you grab your mobile phone, you can scan the barcode, and then it will directly link you to the LinkedIn page where we will, people who are interested can sign up, and we keep them in the loop. So the Austrian pole of inaccessibility is close to Liezen. So the route will be from Bratislava, where we are today, officially, to the pole, to the Austrian pole of inaccessibility. To be honest, I have no idea yet about the exact route. So this is something we will somehow figure out and find out within the next weeks. Also about the accommodation, how we organize it. It's also subject to how many people are joining in. There are a couple of things what we can do while traveling together for the 3 days or 3 nights and 4 days. And then after reaching the pole, the Austrian pole of inaccessibility, we'll travel back to Vienna. So with this tour, with this road trip, we would like to physically connect Bratislava with Vienna with a short detour. Having spoken about the road trip on June 3rd and June 6th, the upcoming event in Vienna will be on July 1st, and that's also a novelty because it will be about the Digital Silk Road meets sustainability, climate change, and environment. I think Austria is very well suited for this subject as a very green destination and a very Green Deal-oriented country. We're still looking for the location of the venue. So if you're interested to join, there's also a barcode here that you can scan with your mobile phone, and this will lead you to the LinkedIn page announcing this event. So having said this, I know that you're not here for my charming smile, but we have some really amazing speakers today. And before we talk about the speakers, I also want to introduce you to two things. Well, one thing and one person. For one, the way of asking questions is Slido. So you can also use this barcode here to scan with your mobile phone, and then you will arrive at the page slido.com. Or you can enter the code 40563 at slido.com. And then you can post questions to the speakers while they do the presentations. And much more important is, and this is to whom I want to hand over now, talking enough again, is this amazing person, Professor Donald Lewis. Donald, it's a real pleasure having you here with us. Don is an amazing person. He's very fluent in Chinese. So before the event started, we had some jokes about his Chinese language skills. And Don is a former professor at the University of Stanford, lived in Hong Kong, I think for 15 years or something. But now I really hand over to Don, and I will stop now my gossiping. Thank you so much for taking over, Don, for the moderation, and I'm looking forward for the presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Philip. Actually, it was 23 years in Hong Kong at the University of Hong Kong Faculty of Law. But yes, it's very nice to be here, and thank you for having me as moderator. But just before we embark on this Silk Road tour, I did want to express my special thanks to Dr. Harvey Zoden, who is also involved with Silk Road 4.0, who I'm stepping in for as moderator this evening. Dr. Zoden is a global media luminary, and he's known throughout the world. And he's also a very ardent supporter of the Belt and Road Initiative, or e-CNY. And he's been a masterful moderator of Silk Road 4 events. So it's a singular honor for me to follow in his footsteps. And he'll actually be involved later on in the program today. Now, as Philip's mentioned, this evening's program is entitled The Digital Silk Road Meets Finance and Banking, with a sub-theme of what can Europe learn from China, or China from Europe? Now, to address these timely topics, we have three distinguished speakers representing the CEE, which in BRI speak means Central and Eastern Europe, the CEE countries. In particular today, we have Slovakia and China, which collectively are known as 17+1. Our distinguished speakers are Professor Juraj Sipko, Dr. Winston Ma, and Mr. Daniel Minarik, who will be addressing us this evening. For the audience, I just want you to be aware that you may ask the speakers questions via slido.com, that web link that Philip has already shown you, and you can ask questions at any time. Now, our first speaker this evening is Professor Juraj Sipko, who's going to provide us with the keynote address on an intriguing and most momentous topic, that being central banks meet digital currency. But before he begins, I did want to give a brief introduction to Juraj. Juraj Sipko is the director at the Institute of Economic Research of the Slovak Academy of Science. For over 5 years, he was an advisor to the governors of the national banks of Slovakia, and for 6 years was advisor to the executive director of the Belgium constituency at the International Monetary Fund. He also spent over 6 years as the director of international relations at the Ministry of Finance of the Slovak Republic. So it's a great pleasure and indeed an honor to have you with us this evening, Juraj. The floor is now yours. Juraj, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The floor is now yours.
Yes. Fine. So, good evening for those who are in Europe, and good morning for those who are in the other side of the planet. So my intention today is to give you broad picture about currency, but not only digital, but also the future development of Yuan or renminbi. Before I will start my presentation, I highly appreciate Philip, who invited me to give a speak about the current very, very interesting topic. So I would like to start with this statement, both very famous, I would say, specialists in terms of digital and cryptocurrency, as well as with the managing director of the IMF. From this statement, we might see how very important role we play both crypto assets as well as digital currency. So this is officially stated by both very famous and unique personality who determine what we are doing and what we should do in line with the process of digitalization. We know that just a couple of days ago in China has been tested in 4 cities, including the People's Bank of China, virtual or digital currency renminbi of Yuan. So this is very historical moment. It's the only first country in the world when we are talking about G20 countries, which actually started this very, very interesting, but it's a long process on the way to facilitate payment system, to increase efficiency, to decrease cost, accessibility, as well as transparency. So motivation of today, my presentation, I set a couple of questions. Was it behind the digital currency? What are the main purpose? Why is testing a digital renminbi? And what are the future? And as well as what will be the role of Chinese national currency in the future monetary system? Coming back, who was the first who created actually algorithm for digital coin? It was nicknamed Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009, and very many others specialists and cryptographers developed this artificial algorithm and created platform for Bitcoin, and also this is a base for the future coin currency. So Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009, he was the first man who introduced this very attractive payment instrument for the future. Digital currency is the process. We are living in the process of digitalization, so digital economy, it's called for digital currency. Digital currency has very many advantages, but at the same time, we should looking forward what are the drawbacks or what about the cost and benefit. Regarding the cost, definitely there is a low cost, fast speed of operation, financial inclusive transparency, and accessibility. When we are talking about some obstacles or some open issue which is necessary to do it at this stage of development, there is a question of laundering of dirty money and combating financing terrorism. So this is very important issue, and for each central banks, for jurisdiction all over the world, now there are 18 80% of central banks, they started to test it or they are preparing for digital currency. So the question will be how different central banks will create the base platform in other digital currency. They will not use only for domestic purposes, but also for cross-border operation. On this slide, we have very simple scheme, which is clearly explained to us on the left side, how it's functioning now system. Very simple, logical, and what it will be in the future. So in the future, it will be distributed ledger technology all over the world. And this ledger technology, including both blockchain, they will create condition for very fast speed and I would say very efficient and transparent payment system. So this is actually the future. And we will see how countries will be able to manage the huge challenges for the future. Let's say in the next maybe 5–10 years, when majority of our country are in the process of introducing these digital currency. It's always the question of discussion about the digital money. So the question is, what about a relation will be between the new forms of digital money, I mean central bank, as well as private? And we know, and we have learned from 2019 that has been created a new, very strong stable coins, and now I mean Libra, and now is going on discussion that some of these very popular crypto assets might be also in the future the reserve currency. Talking about digital currency, it's always necessary to say a couple of words about where we are now in terms of cash payment. So on this slide, you might see the most progressive, they are in Sweden, and Sweden, the governor of the Riksbank in Sweden promised that in 2025, they will be all system using electronic payment. But some, like in Euro area, we see that how much percentage we are using, and so they clearly, this slide show us there are different approach in terms of cash volume as well as trend of cashless, but the most important is whether the country or the central bank will make final decision whether they will have also cash or they will move to just digital currency. Let me now turn to the very critical point here, which is related not only with digital currency, but also with the future development of Yuan or renminbi in the international monetary system. We understand that health crisis and economic crisis had huge impact on the economy, not only on the national economies, but on the global economy as a whole. So the whole global economy moved to the coma, and we have seen that some countries has been suffering so much. On this slide, because it's very specific, I would like to emphasize, and I would like to compare with 2007, 2009, 2010, and 2020 and 2021. So what we might see here, if we are talking about global GDP, the economy of the US, Eurozone, and China, that China in 2007 had huge economic growth, 14.2%, and majority of countries, they have recession, 2008, 2009. But we might see that China had actually very high economic growth, 9.2. We are talking about 2009. Majority, they have a recession, deep recession. So now it was a very promising development. And now again, majority of countries in the world, last year, they got a high recession. The only country from G20 or highly developed or emerging market countries, it's China, when China reached 2.3%. So the question is, the COVID was from Chinese Wuhan, and the Chinese economy was able to prepare for post-COVID recovery, and still it's the trend for this year. It's very promising, 8.1 in comparison with some other countries which or regional economies which are relatively very low. So this is, I wanted to explain to you that China, even where there are very high real external shocks, they was able to do it 2009 as well as 2020, that this economy was on the upward trend. So talking about the economy, it's always related to the foreign trade, to foreign investment. As a result of foreign trade, we have a huge volume of foreign exchange reserve. So if we compare here, we have only two countries, developed countries, Japan and Switzerland, which have relatively very high foreign exchange reserves. We do not have from EU countries, even from the US. So the China is a champion in terms of volume of foreign exchange reserve. But this volume is very high, even if current account surplus is only, roughly speaking, less than 2 percentage points. It's not as was before, almost 10% 2009. So the most important issue, and the Chinese authorities were very keen after the outbreak of the global financial crisis, how to increase the role of Yuan or renminbi in the international monetary system. So based on this perception, Yuan was adopted as a currency, reserve currency, after the US dollar and euro. We might see here how increased the role as the first currency, because it was introducing for 2016 and 2020, and next year, approximately in the middle of next year, they will set up a basket for next 5 years. And this basket will be, as an average, very important indicators for the future weight of the yuan in this basket. So we definitely might say the US dollar will have still very high position, but yuan will grow and will be very competitive, mostly with the euro. So this is the key issue. Then yuan was established as a reserve currency in the International Monetary Fund, as a additional liquidity to finance all 190 countries. And this is a huge volume which are they using, not only in terms of different facilities, but also credits, and with the World Bank also loans. So the expectation here what will be this number for next 5 years, and this will actually formulate also the future international monetary system, whether it will be all system based on digital currency or just partially. There are very many factors which might strongly support international role of renminbi, and there is a Belt Road Initiative. Everybody knows that this project has huge investment, and huge investment will mostly, these loans or credits, mostly will be denominated in renminbi. So when we'll be increasing the volume of renminbi, will be growing also the role of this reserve currency in the international monetary system. In addition to Belt and Road Initiative, I would like to emphasize that just last year has been signed historical document in Southeast Asia countries, regional economic comprehensive development, so integration, and this region will cover almost or more than 30% of the global growth, and it's a huge and potential, and expectation is also that they will use this currency, I mean renminbi. One of the biggest obstacle on the way to create fully convertible currency is the question how to liberalize financial transaction and operation on financial and capital account. So China is also considered in other renminbi in order to be a part of the assets, central bank and even investment and commercial bank to increase the role of capitalization and to actually to study the process, the regulation. So it means to liberalize all capital issues which are now on the track. It brings me to the conclusion. So when we are talking today about digital currency, there is a technological process. This process brought for us very many advantages. This process will create better financial inclusion. This process will be much faster, better access, and this process might create also better condition for the future well-being of all people of the planet. So there is process which call for coordination efforts among the whole nations in order to create platform and to utilize these intangible assets in favor of all people on the planet. The question is, what about the future of digital yuan? The answer is very simple. There is an intention that next year, when there will be Winter Olympic Games, after the testing of all this operation, yuan will be digital currency. Talking about digital currency, it means they will be only within the China. So it means for residents of China. But the future of digital currency, and in order to play a critical role in the international monetary system, China renminbi should create also conditions for cross-border payment. Talking about cross-border payment, always is necessary to take into consideration the present level of exchange rate mechanism or regime, as well as framework for capital account mobility. So there are very many questions how to utilize the process of the future digital yuan And this is related with very comprehensive measure which should be adopted as well as implemented. Talking about Yuan or renminbi in the future, we always should take into consideration the current international monetary system. So the current international monetary system is based on the US dollar. It's dominant currency since 1913 and still is playing very, very important role. But at the same time is growing the role euro as well as renminbi. So from this point of view, we have three strong potential currency which might create multilateral international monetary system. The question is what will be the weight or share different currencies. Based on the latest economic performance, we might note here that renminbi and its role will be growing very fast. It's not only in terms of foreign exchange reserve, it's not only termed as a manufacturing power, international trade, but also in terms of education system and investment for research and development, which is an intangible asset for the future digital, artificial, automation, as well as robotization as the future development or our beautiful planet. So we hope that this strategy will be it depends about the present healthcare and economic crisis will put in the place, but definitely we might say that the huge role of the US dollar in the global economy is on the slowing downward trend. And we might say also that in 1999, the level of foreign exchange reserve in different banks, it was covered by US dollar on the level 71, but for the last quarter of last year, it was only 59. So very many other countries, even a region, as we discussed about a regional comprehensive economic integration, they will move from the US dollar most probably to those currencies which will play a critical role, and this currency might be definitely Chinese renminbi. So we are moving from cash to a digital system, and maybe this is the future, mostly electronic payment by using mobile or the other system, which will be very good, sophisticated. But this is, it will take time, different countries, different approach, different jurisdiction. And at the end, I would like to express my thanks to everybody who followed this short presentation. I wanted to give you a broad-based picture about the renminbi or yuan and about the future development. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Yuri, Professor Sipko, for that very illuminating speech and keynote for us. And I think you've pointed out that indeed there is a very bright future ahead, and indeed a very disruptive future ahead for digital currency, and especially the digital yuan. And as you pointed out, it looks as though the digital yuan will have huge implications for the future of the international monetary system, and indeed the respective positions of the US dollar, the euro, and the Chinese yuan. So thank you, Professor Sipko. We'll now move on to our Q&A, including on Slido. And the first question I would like to put to you, Juraj, is I don't know if you've read this recently, but Jamie Dimon, the chairman and CEO of JP Morgan Chase, has recently suggested that the digital Chinese yuan will eventually displace the US dollar and the euro as the primary currency of exchange in the world. And you've given some suggestions, and there are, there are possible scenarios where that may indeed happen. Do you agree with Mr. Dimon's prognosis?
Well, thank you for this question. He's very good specialist as a chief executive officer, and JP Morgan always was right. But I think in this stage of development, I don't think so that US dollar still has a power, which kind of, if we are going through the capital market, which Mr. Dimon is very familiar with Wall Street. Yeah, so 62% of the capital market it's located in the United States, and it's very low level in China as well as in old continent. I mean in Europe. Yet there will be a gradual process. There will be growing growth of renminbi. But I don't think so that dollar will disappear. It will be, but my guess it will be now a dominant currency as it was during this, after the breakdown of the Bretton Woods system. But this is the reason why at the end I mentioned the most important will be to create multipolar monetary system. And it will be actually much more stable than this system, which is based on the US dollar. And we recognize since Kingston Agreement has been put in place, that is huge volatility. And even reserve currency, when we are talking about floating, they use intervention in 1985 in September, combination intervention, what it's, when we are talking about floating, it's not central banks, they are not committed to use this intervention, but they did in favor of D-mark as well as for Japanese yen, but not in the US dollar. So huge volatility of US dollar, it makes very high implication for the global imbalances. On the way to create this multilateral monetary system, we hope that we might see better future. The most important is how the Global Financial Stability Board, then Capital Committee for International Market will be able to create the platform for the future digital currency and for not only efficient, but for the stability. And this is maybe digital form will create condition for this stability instead of, because we don't know now how huge is volatility and what about behind these factors, about the US dollar and the other currency. But when this will be in place, it will be, I think, much better than now. So I think that he is very smart, Mr. Dimon, but I don't think so the US dollar will be displayed. It will be, the role of US dollar will be on downward trend, but no will display, because the US economy still is the largest economy based on real GDP. And there are very many other very positive issues what the US economy has. mostly when we are talking about technological or innovation hub, they are far away. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Juraj, for those very insightful remarks and for your reassurance that, if you like, that the US dollar still is firmly at the center of the international monetary system and is unlikely to be displaced in the near term. Of course, that's contrary to what Mr. Diamond has said. We do have some major, if you like, unknown variables that are now operating in the system, particularly with the non-bank, fintech, IT companies entering into the international monetary system, and of course, then also with the rise of digital currency by central banks. So it is a rather different environment than we have seen in the past and the way in which the original Bretton Woods system was set up. But in any case, thank you so much for those really brilliant remarks, and it's plenty of food for thought for us. And so at this point, we will move on to our next speaker, and that is Dr. Winston Ma. And Dr. Winston Ma is going to be discussing the digital currency and blockchain 3.0, how China's blockchain push reshapes the future of global financing and trading. So that's Dr. Ma's topic today. Just briefly about Winston Ma, he's the chairman of the advisory board of Open Mineral and author of The Digital War, how China's tech power shapes the future of AI, blockchain, and cyberspace. Winston served as the managing director and head of the North American office of the China Investment Corporation, CIC, China's sovereign wealth fund, for over 10 years. Prior to that, Dr. Ma served as the deputy head of equity capital markets at Barclays Capital, a vice president of JP Morgan, which we just referenced, and a corporate lawyer at Davis Polk & Wardwell. He has been recognized by the World Economic Forum and has been a member of the WEF Councils for Long-Term Investing and the Digital Economy and Society. He's been a member of New York University's President's Global Council since its inception. So it's a great pleasure to have Winston Ma with us this evening. And Winston, are you there now?
Sure. Thank you, Donald.
Well, I will now. It's wonderful to have you here this evening, Winston, and I duly yield the floor to you.
All right, thank you, Donald. I'm sharing my screen, right, for my presentation. Everything look okay?
Yeah, you can expand the. Yeah, there you go. Yes, that's very good.
Okay. Yes. So today my topic is blockchain 3.0 and the digital Silk Road. I think the connection there is that the digital Silk Road is a digital prong of the Belt and the Road, and it is the frontier of the BRI. And within the digital Silk Road, you see internet connectivities, you see cloud services, and you see telecom towers going into Belt and Road countries. But blockchain, to me, is the frontier of the digital Silk Road. So that's the title connection here. Now, very, very quickly about my background, since Don already introduced, I just be very brief. I want to just highlight that my career lasted 2 decades, was all about global connectivity, especially across the Pacific, right? I was educated both in China and the US. I was a lawyer both in Shanghai and New York, and then most recent 10 years, I was with CIC, China's Sovereign Wealth Fund. But before that, I got the training from the US Wall Street. And by the time I got into CIC, I was still working on global investments because CIC manages a portion of China's foreign reserve, right? So I have always been a person, across the Pacific, as well as other parts of the world. So to me, our discussion about Silk Road today is all about global connectivity and more value creation across the board. Now, to put today's digital Silk Road and the blockchain 3.0 in context, here's a quick question to the audience. When we talk about China's internet economy, what would you think of? What will be the image coming to you? And obviously, for many people, they would say it's WeChat. It's the super app, and it has the largest number of users in China, right? Almost everyone has a smartphone, has WeChat, and you can do almost everything about daily activities on that app. So it's like the combination of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and more. Or some people would think about the shopping festival, right? Singles Day. Every year, November 11th, you have this 24-hour shopping extravaganza. And last year, the number was $74 billion for 24 hours. Certainly, it's the largest online shopping festival in the world, more than the Black Friday and the Cyber Monday combined. And it is also a global festival. More than 200 countries participate in this festival. So some people will come to this picture. But since today we talk about digital finance, right? Some people would think about China's mobile payment, which is also a tremendous infrastructure, the largest in the world. It's about nearly 1 billion users unified by the same language, same culture, and the same payment function. So you can imagine lots of data are collected and consolidated on these platforms, which forms the basis for today's data-driven economy. But I will quickly say that all these screenshots were yesterday. Today, China's digital economy is more about technology than internet. And that was a huge, important turning point a few years ago. 2017, China hosted this historical match of Go chess, black versus white, between the best human player and the AI algorithm developed by DeepMind of Google. So this game is full of metaphor, right? Human versus machine, tradition versus modern, intuition versus algorithm, East versus West, and you can certainly say it's also China versus the US. Now, without too much suspension, the machine beat the human 3-0 directly, without any kind of chance for the human player to win one single game. Now, this was a huge inflection point in China's internet economy, because for both the industries as well as the government in China, the image of best human player crying was this clear message that Chinese economy and the internet companies must adopt the latest digital technologies, more than just the mobile internet, in order to be competitive going forward. Okay, so maybe a coincidence, but several months after that historical game, China came up with a AI development plan calling China to be a global AI leadership by 2030. Yeah, and since 2017, the new keywords for Chinese digital economy has been data and intelligence instead of internet and connectivity. So you can see this AI area, China development, right? And this really is reflected in my two books from 2016 to 2021. 2016, title was China's mobile economy, but the 2021 book, The Digital War, is about China's tech power shapes the future of AI, blockchain, and the cyberspace. Now, coming to today's focus, blockchain is viewed, just like AI, is viewed by Chinese government as a critical technology. Chinese President Xi called for more research and investment into blockchain technology in October 2019, which is historical, because for blockchain, right, a technology that is much hyped but not fully proven, President Xi's remarks represented the first major economies leader, or the first global leader to consider blockchain as a national strategic technology. We don't see that in Europe. We don't see that in the US either. And relating to blockchain, we see many aspects of the Silk Road have evolved relating to digital currency. Like Professor Kippo already talked about that before me, and also talk about the blockchain development also related to the new economy applications, and more importantly, it is also becoming the new fundamental technology for the future network along the Belt and Road Initiative. So around these three aspects, I will quickly cover some details. So first, digital currency, right? China, as a professor already covered, China is likely to be the first major economy to introduce a sovereign digital currency. By now, China has already launched large-scale pilot programs across different cities, across different applications. So globally, no other major power is as far along as a homegrown digital currency like China. Secondly, from an applications perspective, right? As we all know, China prohibits crypto trading, but supports blockchain technologies. As a result, most of the research efforts in China are related to blockchain technologies application to real economies sectors instead of crypto trading in many other countries. Now, in China's context, people think about this application of blockchain into industry sectors as blockchain 3.0, because in the world of blockchain, right, it obviously started with Bitcoin. 2013, when we have Ethereum, it became a new smart contract based ecosystem, and it also become an ecosystem for more applications, like more blockchain applications on Ethereum. Now, what's important about the 3.0 is finally startups are connecting blockchain technologies with real industry sectors, such as financial industries, but also other related industries. According to China's Banking Finance Association in 2020, 40% of the organizations involved in blockchain tech in China are financial services related. And more specifically about the applications, supply chain financing is the leading blockchain application in China. And that's quite related to my role at Open Mineral. Open Mineral is a Switzerland-based trading company, metal trading companies that aims to use digital technologies to digitalize the old industry of metal trading, like the trading of metal, gold, etc. Now, of course, China is the largest importer of copper, lead, gold, you name it. So there's a very clear connection between Open Mineral and the Chinese buyers, because more and more Chinese buyers are using blockchain applications for more efficient supply chain financing. So I think going forward, more and more global trading will be based on blockchain, and supply chain financing may be this front runner that we will see very quickly to get popular across different continents, because with the security and the transparency of data management on the blockchain, supply chain financing can become more efficient and secure for all the players within a supply chain, even including the lower tier suppliers that are far away from the core companies at the center of that of that supply chain. Now, thirdly, and a final aspect that I want to cover is about blockchain 3.0, as the new foundation technology for Belt and Road, for the digital Silk Road. Because in the past we have internet, and now we are seeing the emergence of blockchain network cross-border, across different continents. And here, China has several of these initiatives. The most famous one so far is BSN, Blockchain Service Network. This BSN is set to be a cross-cloud, cross-portal, cross-framework global infrastructure network. In other words, it will be the foundation for global blockchain projects. So when that happens, it essentially will become the largest blockchain ecosystem in the world. And the attractiveness of BSN is to support all types of blockchain applications. And it also provides very cheap services, cheap cloud data services, and blockchain services for application developers, who want to develop a new blockchain application. So in summary, it is an ambitious effort, to include as many blockchain frameworks as possible and make them accessible under one uniform standard of the BSN platform. So with that, it is also a ambitious effort, right, to try to develop the future standard of blockchain ecosystem, which is consistent with the global connectivity idea behind the Belt and Road Initiative. So to summarize so far, right, we see the blockchain applications are being developed in China, multiple application contests, such as the digital currency, such as the financial sector applications like supply chain financing. And thirdly, the cross-border blockchain network, such as the BSN. And when you put all three things together, you would expect to see the global financing and trading with China going forward will be fundamentally changed because of the development of blockchain technology. Now, one good example is the recent report that the central banks of Thailand, UAE, and Hong Kong are working with China to explore a digital currency cross-border payment projects. So you can certainly see a possible scenario where these countries will use less US dollars. Instead, they develop an ecosystem, based on blockchain network like BSN, and the Chinese digital currency will be the digital currency on that blockchain ecosystem. And at the application level, global users will use blockchain-based applications for more efficient financing and trading. So with that, I think we have a very exciting prospect to look into. If all these three will be combined and work together efficiently. So I conclude here. Please find me on LinkedIn if you would love to chat more. And my NYU professor email is on NYU website anyway, so you can always find me. Thank you very much, and I give this back to Don.
Well, thank you so much, Winston, for a very, very interesting and indeed thought-provoking presentation. I mean, these are eye-opening developments, I think, for all of us. China never ceases to amaze with its bold innovation and forward thinking here. Thank you for illuminating this for us. I think there's a lot of room here for questions, and we have had some from the floor. So let's now move on to our Q&A. The first question comes from Emmy Haynes, and she has asked, can the blockchain-based service network, or BSN, provide the blockchain infrastructure for cross-border CBDC, central bank digital currency, digital payments? Would you like to address that, Winston?
Sure. No, it could be. It could be, but my guess is the central bank's probably going to work together to create something as well. Yeah, because the BSN is set up to be this this ecosystem infrastructure to support DApp developers to provide a cheap and efficient services, and for the official digital currency transactions, I think the central banks, the governments will try to develop something their own.
Very good. Well, that's good, and we'll keep an eye out for those developments. I think there already are some going on between China and some of the countries' governments that you just mentioned. So that will be very interesting to see develop going forward, this cooperation between China and other governments and their respective central banks. Now we now have another question. In order for we have a question from Philip, and it's, could China's state-oriented paternalistic view of digital governance have a constraining effect on the free cross-border flow of digital currencies?
I think the answer is twofold. One, clearly there's this concern. Simply look at a BSN, right? It has the domestic version and the international version. The domestic version is permissioned blockchain, and the international one is a public blockchain, right? So for BSN itself, it recognizes the difference. So that's one hand. But on the other hand, I think the China government recognized the concern. So for the BSN International, it intentionally to make sure it's public chain, right? And it's open source. Now, will this solve the concern completely? We will have to see, right? We'll have to see because this worry about cross-border data is very broad. In the case of TikTok, right? TikTok tried everything to keep the foreign business outside of China, and the data of the TikTok business in overseas markets is kept in the servers of US and Singapore. But still, the US government was worried that the data would somehow go to China. So that's why we saw the executive order from Trump administration to divest TikTok into US investors. And this executive order is still alive, after the transition into Biden administration. So we'll have to see.
Well, thank you for that answer. And yes, certainly there are many issues still outstanding in terms of divergent views regarding digital and internet governance data sovereignty and the like between China and countries like the US and the EU.
All the above, done.
Right. Yes, indeed. So that will have to be addressed, and it is being addressed. But another question here, what impact will foreign exchange control, for example, from the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, have on cross-border digital currency payments since the yuan is still not fully convertible on capital account, or at least not entirely convertible, as I understand it?
Great question, and I agree with the person who suggested the question that it is a big factor for China's crypto trading going forward, right? Because for a country with capital control, crypto trading, especially on decentralized exchange, etc., right, means there's a different channel for people for Chinese people onshore to move money into foreign currency offshore. Actually, last couple of months we have seen, according to public data, we have seen big money like forex outflow in the capital account for China. And there's the suspicion is that the crypto trading in the let's call it gray market cross border between onshore China and offshore market like Hong Kong, like Singapore, right, has some contribution to that. So another way to think about it is unless the capital control is over, the crypto trading limitation may not be over.
Yes, I would presume that the Chinese government is fully aware of these issues and is moving deliberately in the direction of having full capital account convertibility. Would that be a correct assessment?
I think you're right. Like the day that China lift up all the restriction on capital control will be quite some years away. That will be some, yeah. And so before that, I think the limits on crypto trading will always be there. Does this make sense to you? Yeah.
Yes, it does. I think understanding how the Chinese system operates and really the fiscal conservatism, the monetary conservatism of the government, it makes sense that it will be an Ibu-Ibu-lai approach, step by step.
Right. Especially when you consider that China started this dual circulation initiative like 6-12 months ago, right? So when the domestic circulation becomes more and more important, that means the capital control becomes more and more relevant.
Yes, and I mean the CBDC itself is really, as I think Juraj mentioned previously. I mean, it's really just for domestic transactions to start with here. It's not really intended to operate on a cross-border basis. Is that correct?
Say it again.
The digital yuan, being a CBDC, is really only meant to operate initially domestically. I mean, we're not.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah,
Definitely.
Exactly. It will be a step-by-step kind of initiative, right? So the first step is to test it in the domestic market, and then probably it will be used in a small cross-border usage, like a foreign tourist in China. Chinese tourist, outside or something like that, and the third step will be like a Belt and Road, large ticket transactions between enterprises. So it will be step by step.
Very interesting. Another question: outside of China, because we know inside of China, cryptocurrencies and coin offerings are not permitted, but outside of China, what effects will CBDC have on private cryptocurrency business? Will cryptocurrency and its various analogs, stable coins, etc., decline in importance and relevance with the rise of CBDC?
Look, It's a great question. I think, if China lifts up the restrictions on crypto trading, then the CBDC and its related like stable coin, right, can be very, very relevant for the global crypto community. Because right now we saw the kind of the other direction. Lots of Chinese still participate in crypto trading. They don't have the US dollar directly, but they could use, they're onshore and they use the local currency to make those investments through USDC stable coin related products. Yep. So and if eventually China becomes a crypto market by itself and lots of crypto exchanges in China, then you could imagine that the CBDC, right, will become a very important kind of middle ground currency for the global crypto community.
Well, thank you very much, Winston. Very insightful. We're looking forward to the future developments of the Chinese digital yuan. Will be very impactful. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is Mr. Daniel Minarik, whose presentation has the intriguing title of The Data Dilemma. Daniel Minarik is a data strategist, a visionary and self-described challenger of the status quo. Always good to see. And he's passionate about data, banking, and innovation. Daniel is the Chief Data Officer of Tatra Banka, the first private bank in Slovakia, and recognized by Global Finance magazine in 2019 as the most innovative digital bank in the world. Daniel supports Tatra Banka in becoming more data-centric and future-ready by delivering company-wide data strategy with a focus on AI, other forms of fintech, data governance, and establishing a data-driven culture. Daniel has participated in several innovation courses at Stanford University, pleased to hear, and has a certificate in AI from the MIT Sloan School of Management. Daniel, pleasure to have you with us. I yield the floor to you.
Thank you very much. I will now share my screen. Okay, just a moment. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction. And when I was looking at the audience of this conference, I have been quite surprised by the huge variety of the experts from different companies, different nations, and also this road trip like conference is quite new to me and quite unique format that I didn't see in the past. So I want to thank again to the organizers for invitation to participate. Just to briefly introduce myself, as it was mentioned, my current role is Chief Data Officer in the Tatra Bank, which is member of the Raiffeisen Bank International Group, which is operating mainly in Central and Eastern Europe. And I have joined this role of the Chief Data Officer approximately 3 years ago. I came to financial industry from the startup, technology startup, and took this senior role when I was 29. So besides these challenges, I see the first huge challenge which was on my table was to, let's say, establish some first form of the data strategy that will tackle the regulation of BCBS 239, which was introduced after financial crisis in 2008. And also as the, let's say, data science, artificial intelligence capabilities were quite new in this era for Central and Eastern European banks and this institution, I established the first data science team within our group, and I think our data science team was one of the first also in the region in terms of financial institutions. Currently, we have switched a little bit the organizational structure, so we established the Advanced Analytics and Data Governance department because I think key for any AI is to have it governed properly. So we put it under one roof. So this is just a brief introduction about me, and let's say, in my keynote, I will briefly introduce the key challenges that I foresee in the future of data and digital strategies. And we were facing these issues also a lot of years ago, and we will be facing these issues also in the future. So hopefully this will be useful for also your approach to your strategy. Maybe I will just briefly tell you why the data or the innovation is central topic for our bank. As it was mentioned, we have been awarded the most innovative bank, and let's say our brand promise is innovation leadership. So in the last 10 years, we have been really driving the innovation also on the global scale. So I think we were the first bank that used voice authentication for our customers to, let's say, make the operations possible by just using the voice. We have introduced the face biometry account opening using let's say, face recognition and computer vision with connection to government systems to let's say, open accounts for our customers. We have been also experimenting with hardware. So when there was the hype about the Pepper humanoid robot, we introduced him to the branches to help our customers. And in the recent years, we have established the, let's say, first digital influencer in Slovakia, Baby Blue, using also heavily advanced technologies, and also first voice bot or first chat bot regarding virtual financial advisory. So we heavily depend on the usage of the advanced technologies. And as a bank, yes, I consider us as a front runners in terms of these technologies. But when we think about the data available about our customers, we see that, okay, the digital companies or big techs who were established with the customer data as a core business components are having huge advantage. So I borrowed this slide from one research regarding the amount of average data about one user or customer per year, and I can confirm that as a bank we are currently not doing as much as possible with, let's say, unstructured data, location data, and so on. And also the data that we have at our disposal are not utilized to the maximum opportunity or the potential. So what we see nowadays is that this shift of big techs into financial industries is really threatening traditional banks. And we saw that Google introduced current account. We see the Apple Pay and Apple Card being introduced. And really, these technology companies are threatening the financial industry pretty much. When we are speaking about, let's say, Asia and Europe, I really like the example of the Grab taxi, which shifted, let's say, from the taxi services or ride-sharing services to the digital bank, and managed to acquire a Singapore digital bank license together with Singapore Singtel. So there are huge examples how these data-driven technology companies without the legacy debt or legacy issues are able to go to the financial industries. And yes, we foresee that the data and the right usage of the data is key for the future. So let's say nowadays what we see with the advancement in these technologies And also one of the key issues, what I foresee within the organization and also within the general public, is the decrease in digital literacy. So there are huge misconceptions and false expectations about the possibilities what AI can deliver and what not. So I often hear in my role, mainly from the business point of view, okay, so we can just use AI for this topic, but the key concern is, okay, do we have enough data? Do we have the data of right quality? And can we use the data for this topic? So really, there are a lot of misconceptions, and I foresee that building digital literacy will be key strategy for the future. And yes, there are expectations that AI will drive almost everything and almost every business decision. So the segment of one is key topic when we are speaking about the segmentation. But having the more data is creating this so-called dilemma. So in this era of massive collection of data, pinpoint, customer targeting, I believe that this will be decreasing in the following years, especially as it is mentioned that or as a saying says, that with great power come great responsibility. Same it is with data. So I believe that as a bank and the organization, the more data that we'll be collecting, storing, and processing about our customers will create, let's say, huge temptations about their usage. It can be used both ethical and unethical way, but yes, the amount of data is increasing rapidly, and it will create dilemmas between, let's say, doing what is right for the customer and what is right for or good for the business. So what we were thinking, or what we are currently discussing on the board level, are topics like, can privacy be the next product or next proposition? Are customers willing to pay even for premium of having their data do not even used for let's say generalization or anonymization on other purposes, or it is some hygiene factor that it is, let's say, privacy by default for the companies. So there are a lot of topics that are being discussed, and I think the most important one that we are currently having is, and where is the biggest dilemma, is where to draw the line between doing business and fulfilling our bank KPIs like cost income ratio, return on equity, and customer well-being. As a bank, when we got the financial data about the customer, we are able to advise customer in the right way. But for example, imagine that I can see it from my example that I do not have, let's say, regular payments scheduled. So sometimes I missed some credit card payment. And yes, bank is earning some gross income out of me. But if we want to be ethical and, let's say, through virtual financial advisor, advise customer, okay, pay this earlier and you will not have the, let's say, spend more on the credit card payment, it will cut down the gross income of us for the organization. So these are currently being discussed, how to approach this topic. I cannot give you a clear answer now, but let's say we need to address these issues. When we think about what is happening in the world, we also see that there is the huge polarization of this topic in the world, which can be summarized by, let's say, virtual battle between the Facebook and Apple. So as you probably heard or read, Apple is heavily betting currently on the privacy. And if you watched the presentation of Apple products 2 weeks ago, I think the Tim Cook spent almost quarter of time when introducing AirTags, just describing privacy, data security, and how responsible they are treating the customer's data. And let's say this battle is also in terms of that Apple is planning to roll out the new, let's say, application permissions that will disable some tracking for the third parties and so on. They called it so-called ad tracking transparency. And it might seem that it is just a minor change, giving user opportunity to switch the restrictions. But in the end, for the Facebook, there is the estimation loss of revenues from the advertisement around $90 billion. So let's say this huge amount is caused by small privacy change within the Apple, and we can see also that Apple, regarding their, let's say, search in iOS, which is currently provided by Google, they are thinking about introducing their own search engine, which will, let's say, decrease Apple revenue by, I think it was around $10 billion, but it will keep their customers private. So we see that the two biggest, or one of the biggest technology player are heavily polarized in this topic of the privacy. And we can see that Apple is also, as I mentioned, the digital literacy, and digital literacy or data literacy of customers is not on very high level, especially in our region. But Apple is also focusing on, let's say, educating their customers regarding this privacy. So, for example, when you are using Safari, there is, let's say, some dashboards, and they are communicating with you that, okay, these are the trackers that you are being tracked on the web page. This will help manage to prevent. And we can see that Apple is trying to bring this privacy and responsibility into their DNA and unique selling proposition. So this shift of Apple, or this approach to more responsible data collection and AI usage, got also, in my opinion, and when I discussed with some people from the security, also huge security benefits. So just, I tried the last week to type into Google, okay, the keyword data leak, and I selected time period for the last week, and there were dozens of articles about data leakage. Recently, one of the most significant one was related to Facebook, when they lost almost 500 million addresses and contact information, which in combination with WhatsApp new privacy policies shifted huge amount of the customers to other platforms. So we can see that customers are becoming more and more aware about the possible misuse of data and these concerns regarding the data leaks and so on. So when I'm speaking about the lower data that we have as a bank at disposal, other topic that is heavily affecting financial institution is I call it regulatory overhaul. So when we take a look at the big techs and technology companies, they manage to somehow be step ahead in front of the regulators. And when we are speaking about the European landscape in terms of regulatory, for example, currently I'm actively participating in two big regulation. One is BCBS 239, which I already mentioned, and second one is Single Resolution Board, which is resolving what will happen and what will be the processes if the bank will go into resolution, which is the, let's say, low probability event. But let's say these are just the two of dozens of regulations that we got on hand. Especially what is I think key concern or key, let's say, challenge is that, yes, we are within the European Union, so we are regulated by European Central Bank and let's say other bureaus there, but we still got our National Bank of Slovakia, which got also some regulations and so on. And then when we imagine that we are also part of the Raiffeisen Bank International, which is locally significant or locally significant banking group, we have also the regulatory topics coming out of there. So in the end, the regulatory overhaul is causing a lot of troubles, and let's say it is taking a lot of valuable time which we can doing, let's say, more customer focused projects and approaches which these technology companies got let's say, more hands-free in this area. And as I mentioned, the technology companies are managed or are able to stay ahead of the regulation, especially European Union, when we are mixing European Union and local legislations, we can often see that, yes, companies earning billions of dollars just before having the regulation implemented. And I like to have the example from the gaming industry, when you probably all heard about the EA, which introduced loot boxes to, let's say, their players from 3 years old. And yes, it is straightforward gambling, but the regulation or the approach of the regulatory was not able to react fast. So I think up to this time, they were able to, let's say, earn several billions just from these microtransactions. So to move forward, or to show you some example how we can do this, I will approach one concrete topic after this slide, and I will use, let's say, when we are speaking about the Europe and China, I think the Chinese social credit score is mandatory part of every presentation, which is concerning data privacy, and I believe this topic alone can take a few conferences to discuss. So I will not step into, let's say, ethical concerns and opinions about it, but let's say from the technology point of view, and it is, I think, key learning that Europe and the European Union can have, is that this project and how China managed to drive this project with major technology companies is I think amazing. I have been using, when I have been proposing the data strategy, I have been using, let's say, social credit score as an example. What is possible with data? How can, let's say, government or regulatory cooperate with technology companies? And let's say I put the word social into brackets because I believe that I do not believe, but let's say credit scoring is key component of any financial institution. So we still have the majority of our gross income from selling loans, which are based on the credit score of our customers. And let's say we see that there is also with the pandemic, or also in the change in working habits and so on, we see that there is also the shift in the spending patterns, source of income, and so on. So we definitely need to think about what will the future of credit scoring look like for financial institutions. And yes, the behavioral data and the other kinds of data besides the transactional can be used for this scoring, but it will create these, let's say, ethical and data dilemmas that we'll need to address. And let's say it might look like the simple example, but when we have been discussing a simple question that if the smart pricing is ethical, okay, you probably heard or know the concept of the smart pricing from your own experience. And let's say the easiest way to spoil your flight is just to ask seatmate how much did he pay, did he or she pay for ticket. And we see that, let's say, airlines are the front runner in the smart pricing. So if you are accessing topic from or buying tickets from the newest iPhone, you will definitely get the higher price, and so on and so on. But is this ethical? When I have been reading some studies from the Cambridge University, the smart pricing is just the fancy word for the price discrimination, and there is no clear topic or answer how to approach this topic. But currently we have established the working group in Tatra Bank, which will help to answer this question, and we definitely want to create some ethical guidelines for these areas, how to approach. why we want to do this internally. So, or why we want to approach this topic as an organization. I believe also from what I presented and from the data strategy point of view that the shift towards trust and privacy is inevitable. And I think it is the key, let's say, feature of successful data or digital strategy. But we still see that regulations are not able and will not able be to cover all these, let's say, privacy and ethics challenges. And just to have, let's say, one final word in my keynote is that I believe that it is the role of the digital leaders or roles like chief data officers, CEOs, and senior management to really drive these strategies and this approach internally, also taking into consideration regulatory landscape. But as we can see, there will be still space for unethical behavior or unethical pricing policies and so on. But besides the regulation, having the let's say this privacy and ethical approach to data and AI is definitely key responsible of the senior leadership of the organization. So this is all from my side. Thank you for your attention, and I am open to any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for that wide-ranging and informative, highly informative presentation. We covered a lot of ground that's relevant with regard to, for example, data collection and the proper uses of data collection. And I think the very poignant example there of the current Apple versus Facebook controversy, and the issues that are wrapped up there in terms of how much protection of privacy is necessary and desirable in this environment where so much data is being collected. So thank you for illuminating this area and providing it in a very concise context. We'll now move on to the questions, the Q&A. There was a question from Emmy Haynes again, basically asking what regulatory lacunae currently exist with respect to data protection and privacy rights in the EU. And sort of further along those lines, are there moves afoot in the EU to revise the GDPR to provide greater privacy protection? And if you are aware, what's the current situation regarding the proposed EU e-privacy regulation? Daniel?
Okay, so first of all, as I mentioned, in the regulatory landscape, not only concerning the privacy, but also the financial institution regulation, there are regulations, let's say, that are global and covering European Union or the world, like the GDPR. And I think regarding the GDPR, regarding the privacy and the personal information, GDPR is the key regulation that is currently in place. And we can see that some of the countries in European Union are proposing their approach to handling private data or customer data and so on. I think that Denmark was the first country in the world to have proposed the state or government regulation regarding the data ethics and data privacy topics besides the GDPR. But for example, in Slovakia, currently yes, there are some small local regulation and legislation which are often handled by our legal department, but the GDPR is key, let's say, regulation that we are taking care of. I will maybe add in this topic, because this amount of regulation, and when we compare our legacy organization with the new technology companies, as a bank, we started in the single channel era. So really the brick and mortar branch with some systems and so on. And when the technologies are moving very fast through multi-channel, omni-channel, through this digital world, we are stacking up the systems, applications, and the data. And for example, before 10 or 20 years, there was no GDPR or the concerns regarding the data privacy as much. Okay, we got the bank privacy, but we are facing currently also huge legacy debt. It is not huge, but we still need to cover with each regulation also the historical data and the legacy systems. So this is one topic that is also affecting this GDPR or regulation. And to answer the second part of the question, there was the, let's say, new AI regulation proposed by the European Commission, if you are asking about that. And yes, this will definitely change the landscape in terms of AI, because I think in area of the technology, AI and the blockchain, and this was also mentioned in the previous keynotes, Europe is a little bit lacking behind. So if we just take into consideration the cloud providers, so for example, when we are currently thinking about having the cloud infrastructure, Microsoft, Google, Amazon are the key companies that we are looking for, but there is no European player. So I think this AI regulation is, let's say, on the global scale, the regulation that can help Europe regain some of the position in terms of global AI landscape. So I believe that it will pass, and yes, it will be a huge amount of work to implement, but really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you for that, those insights, Daniel. Another question related to what you've been saying about data collection and indeed the transmission of data. The question is from Philip. What are the key takeaways from the G7 roadmap for cooperation on data-free flow with trust? Will this strengthen EU data protection and privacy rights?
Okay, so first of all, I have been checking some outputs, and to summarize, what I foresee as for me the key takeaway and key good step is that there is the possibility to unify the approach to this data flow and so on. Because currently, let's say, the regulations, the approaches are heavily fragmented. So this is I think the key issues. So for me, key output is, okay, the promise of the unifying this approach to free flow data, to having some privacy standards and so on across the globe is the key and the best takeaway out of this.
Very interesting. Another question, this one from Ina. How, and more specific to Tatra Banka, how does Tatra Banka store its data? Is it encrypted centrally or decentralized? How is it managed?
Okay, so as a financial institution, we are not in cloud currently. There are some applications that are running in the cloud. So we have most of our data on premise with the data management procedures and data governance procedures in place with the restrictions for the access. But we foresee that, let's say, cloud and also, as it was mentioned, blockchain will be key technologies of the future. So currently, yes, we are looking for the possibilities of the cloud and the usage of the cloud, One concern regarding the cloud is currently the let's say privacy shield and the cloud act between the US and European Union. And as I mentioned, the majority of the cloud providers are US companies. So these are creating some, let's say, legal obstacles that we are currently trying to resolve. But the cloud is definitely on the roadmap, definitely in some applications. So we will need to approach this responsibly. And let's say, I think blockchain is being explored by the head office in Vienna. So I think their R&D team is looking into this quite heavily.
Well, thank you for that, Daniel. And I know we have other questions, and perhaps the question on China's social credit system that you raised, maybe that can be picked up as one of the distinguishing factors between Europe on the one hand and China on the other. I think that's a fascinating area. But thank you so much for your presentation and for your very, very full and helpful answers during the Q&A. At this point, we are to move on, and I have a signal from Philippe to that effect that we should move on to our last topic for discussion, a very important one. It's actually it's somewhat different. Of course, it interrelates, but the topic is, what can Europe learn from China, or China from Europe? And really, we want to get the views of the speakers here, but I do have one opening thought. Having spent so much time in China, Hong Kong, and elsewhere in East Asia, it's very evident to me that China and Asia have learned a great deal from Europe and the US over the last 30 years, but this has not been reciprocated in the West. And I mean, I don't think the West gets very high marks compared to China. So I think this is something that needs to be rebalanced. We need to refocus on this, and that includes the leadership, perhaps not so much in the European Commission, but maybe at the higher levels of the European Union, and certainly in the United States, in the US government, the need to really understand China better. But with that, let's move to our speakers. Juraj, what are your views on this topic?
Wow.
Do you want to turn on your video, Juraj?
Yes. I am in the process. At the moment, yeah. Okay, it's okay.
No stress. You don't need to. So if the video is not running, no problem at all. I mean, it's what I really like about this panel discussion today is we really have different ecosystems here. So we have the Western ecosystem of discussion, meaning the United States. So Winston, I think you are located in New York, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have the east side of the United States. We have the west side of the United States with Don. And then we have the European side with Austria, and also very close by Slovakia. And I think that's a very valid discussion that we are now starting. Juraj, if you can't turn on the video, no problem at all. Are you with us? Is the audio working?
Yes. Hello. There we go.
Maybe Daniel, do you want to continue with answering the question?
Yes, I can answer. Okay, so let's say I already discussed the social credit score in the presentation, and I think the key learning from the Europe or from the China to Europe is is how the government is cooperating with technology companies. So this cooperation between Tencent, Alibaba, and the government on creating the unified solution is quite unique, and I think the European regulators should also work more with local technology companies on similar solutions. So I think this is one part. And let's say other way around, I think there are I cannot now pick one thing what can China learn maybe from Europe. I think with this introduction of AI regulation and let's say sharing these best practices in terms of AI and ethical approach, this might be the learning for the China in the future.
Very good. Thank you, Daniel. Winston, I'm sure you have some very definite views on perhaps what Europe and the West can learn from China, not only in the digital space, but perhaps more broadly. So and of course, what China can learn from Europe. So please, I'd like to hear your views.
Sure. Relating to data, I think it's really interesting that you can say that China can learn a lot from Europe on private data protection, but for Europe, you can learn from China about government initiatives to promote technology development and even just technology adoption. Yeah. So on one side, the relating to tech data regulations, actually China has learned a lot from Europe, right? That China's e-commerce law had this provision of a right to be forgotten, which is clearly from GDPR. And today, this year, China is launching the personal information protection law, which will be very much focused on personal data protection like GDPR. It is expected to be to go effective in a few months, and the overall framework is very much I wouldn't say copy, right? It's China has too much copy issues. I would say it has learned definitely a lot from the framework of GDPR. Now the flip side is China has really pushed tech innovation in China, not only in the internet industry, but also for the digital transformation of the overall economy, right? And this is something the Europe may learn from China, how to encourage the overall economy, all sectors, to adopt digital technologies and go through this digital transformation and develop a new digital business model, right? So if you think about the presentation I just made, this AI thing, right? Globally, every country is talking about AI revolution, but very few countries, like China, would adopt a national AI development plan with a clear timeline and agenda. Yeah. And with that, you see China mobilizes resources from every level, from central government all the way to local governments, to promote the adoption of AI technologies, as well as promote the research on AI technologies. Yeah, these two aspects.
Excellent comments and insights. I noticed that Juraj is back with us. Your comments, please, Juraj.
Yes, thank you so much. I apologize. We are talking about artificial intelligence and technology, and it's always might happen what happened with me. So the first issue is when we are moving to artificial intelligence, the most important is to build research and development and quality of education. And from this point of view, we might learn a lot from China. When we compare graduate student from mathematics, technology, there is huge disproportion between the Chinese university and all over the world. Like in China has something like 4.7 million, India 2.7, but the US 365,000, but very many of these students, they are from China or from Europe, you know. And Russia something like 320, and then on the first rank is Iran. So they have very strong background, technological, mathematical, and solving problem for the future. So this is definitely what we can learn, because to build the future way of digitalization, we should be very well equipped. I mean, education system and research and development. In addition to what Chinese authority they stated, they always introduce and implement it. They prepare strategy 2025. I mean, in industrial, you don't have strategy all over the world like China, and it's following the strategy and it's going to fulfill. So very many issues. And on the other side, what the China can learn, as both my speakers, my colleague before, Daniel and Winston said, that, you know, in Europe, there's always historical value and very many positive issues what we did here, but we are losing the steam, the dynamic of these changes. And this we might always learn from this part of the world, and it's crucial. But in Europe, very many people, they don't see this trend, because, you know, it's very difficult in terms of whether geopolitical or competitive, you know. But if you are going through the data, as I presented today, in terms of macroeconomic during two crises, what Chinese did, I think they are very well equipped for the future development and strategy, and to build this not only digital currency, but on the way to one of the critical money in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juraj. And I think we're right up on time. So if I could pass over to our Master of Ceremonies, Philip, and I think you'll be wrapping up with Dr. Harvey Zoden as well. So
yeah,
thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Don. Thank you so much, the speakers. If Harvey wants also to share the video, Harvey, feel free to join in. I just want to say it's amazing what today I was honored to learn. Thank you so much for these amazing presentations. What I really like about this different views, different perspective is actually the same topic from different angles. And that's the beauty about traveling, in my humble opinion, that you learn the same thing from different eyes, from different worlds, from different knowledge ecosystems. And that I think today it was a perfect example of how much knowledge there is out there where we can learn from each other when traveling the world. And I really want to say a big, big thank you for all the speakers, for Don, for Harvey, for Emi, for Stefan, who helped making this evening possible. And before we leave, I just want to make a quick outlook to the events that are coming up. So in particular, thanks again so much for Juraj Sipko, for Winston Ma, and Daniel Minarik. You can see on LinkedIn their profiles, and if you're interested to reach out, you can do so on LinkedIn. And I also wanted to keep in mind, remind you about the upcoming 2 activities. So for one, our road trip, where we'll try out and see if it's possible in these crazy times to jointly travel. If you're interested, also please follow us on our LinkedIn page about this event or activity. And also, when speaking about Vienna, the next hybrid event that we're planning to do is in Vienna, taking place on July 1st. So all of you who are listening or speaking today, please feel invited. It would be amazing if we can really meet in person. So please pencil it in your calendar. It would be an honor to see you all there. And last but not least, I also want to say a big thank you for all the audience and all the participants who joined our tour tonight. Also, I saw that a person that I really appreciate very much, Thomas Röbelreiter, joined our delegation today. I know Thomas already for, I don't know, several years. And Thomas, I don't know, Thomas, are you here with the camera? Because Thomas, he is an organizer of an event. I just looked it up so that you can have an eye on. It's the B2B Software Days taking place here in Vienna next week, and it's a rather big event. I think 2,000 participants. So I'm following this event for several years now. And I know it when it was rather small with a couple of hundreds participants, and now it has exploded, honestly. I think up to 2,000 participants. So it's a great place to be if you're into matchmaking, into somehow with software, then this is definitely the place to be. So, okay, thank you again so much. Thomas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there, but you have to switch on my camera because you have to do it as a host. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Let me see. That's the funny thing about sudden surprises, participants. Let me, because Thomas, do you want to tell a little bit about your? Oh, here we go. Yes.
Here we are. Okay. Thanks a lot. Very big thanks to you, Philip, for giving me the chance to present a little bit, just in 2 minutes, the event we are planning or we are hosting in the beginning of next week, from Monday to Wednesday. I've also seen Stefan Horvath, who is hosting a session on Wednesday about Series A to Series B financing, obstacles you're facing. But altogether, why are we organizing this event? Because I think the Austrian software industry must internationalize and must innovate. This is the only way to grow and to stay in business. And how can we help, or how can we support that issues, is by organizing an event where we give the chance that they collect valuable information about future trends they can pick up, and they can also building up own competencies, but also getting access to external competencies. Therefore, networking is a very, very important part of this conference. So, and we also would like to provide low barriers to attend. Therefore, participation is free of charge. I would like to show you in 1 minute what this conference is about, how it looks like, that you can get an idea. So you should see my screen now. And what is nice here is you see immediately on the starting page how international that conference is. So you see that we have more than 50 different nations, and we also have 2,000 participants now. So this was the target we have set for us. You could see that most three-quarters of the participants are companies. And you can easily switch to one of these numbers, and then you will see who are the participants. You can then send them a meeting, just to write in a message and send that message. You can also request a meeting to meet those guys in a 15 minutes talk, which will organized and scheduled by the system. So this is a very comfortable way to increase your personal network. And we're also providing a lot of filter and search functions about the participants. And I think what also is very interesting, we are offered to specify your collaboration opportunities, your collaboration needs. so that you say, I have a product which maybe is of interest to your clients as well. I have a service, I have a project idea, etc. So you can search for terms, for example, blockchain, and then book a meeting for those people where you both will be available. Concerning the competences I've mentioned about the trends, so we are organizing 24 workshops, all about the topics in technical trends like 5G, AI, but also horizontal trends, how to find developers, how to manage fundings. We present European initiatives like the European Institute of Technology, etc. So that's it. I would be very happy if you could use this opportunity to enlarge your own competences, to find new competent partners to master the future. Yeah, this is the invitation to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm very happy to hear, because the EIT was already a subject in our group several times. So Paul Rubik was here, and also EIT manufacturing was here. So it was a funny coincidence that you're mentioning EIT. Also, what I want to mention is that Vienna is really a very international city, as we could see. So it was actually a perfect bridge now from this globalization back to networking, back to bringing communities together. And again, I really want to thank you all so much for participating. It was a great fun today. If you want to stay in touch, please don't forget to sign up to our LinkedIn page of SILKROAD 4.0. Follow our posts. And if you want to join our delegation, please send me a message. We're always very happy to join with other groups and people and collaborate. So thanks again. And for those who are interested to explore Virbela, our virtual reality environment, a couple of us will now go back to Virbela, explore the campus together, maybe doing some speedboat riding. It's also quite entertaining. You haven't done it in virtual reality. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see you all. And a big thank you for everyone.